welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey. And it is actually, for once, a beautiful day here in Cape May County. At least it was today. Tomorrow is questionable because the weather is being so fickle. But anywho, I am broadcasting live via SHR Media and also streaming live here on Facebook. Welcome, everybody, to the Facebook chat. Gary, Katina, Dwight, good to see you guys. Sorry I was out last week due to technical difficulties, which I thought I had figured out, but it still doesn't look like it's working the way it's supposed to. We shall see. Anyhow, if you're listening to this as a download, thank you. And welcome to the Facebook chat, Doug. My guests today are... Same in DC. Beautiful day in DC. Doug Paz says she exists. I know. I've been MIA lately. My guests today are Joe Murphy. He's the best-selling author of the bestseller "Living Full Tilt: Celebrating Life." Very interesting story. I can't wait for you guys to talk to him, or for him to talk to you. And those of you in the Facey chat who have questions, I'm sure you will have plenty. You can post them in the Facey chat. But I met him at the National Publicity Summit that I went to in New York City about a month ago. So I'm happy to have him on the show today. And then I also have Christy Matoon, who's a best-selling author as well and a subconscious mind expert. And she's going to talk to us about positive thinking and basically ways to control your mind. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation in that, of course, hey, Richard Herschel Griffin in the Facey chat. In that, of course, that, I always look at things from a biblical perspective. And I just suspect some of the things that she's going to be talking about is like just rebranded Bible principles. At least whenever I see things like that, that's what I always think. I'm like, yeah, that sounds a lot like that scripture. Somebody else wrote it first. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's just what I always think. But a lot of times people haven't read it, so they don't, it sounds like brand new and really innovative. And I'm not knocking the guest or anything, but I'm just saying, like, the creator of the mind, all these things, a lot of these things originate from there. That's all I'm saying. So I'm interested. And sometimes, though, we need someone to come at us with a different approach and to say things a different way in order for it to click with us. So that is why I'm interested in what she has to say and how she has to say it. So Christy Matoon is my guest for the second hour. Lisa Gerald's John Campbell, one of my sponsors, is in the Facey chat. How are you? If you are interested in one of these lovely mugs, one of my favorite mugs, says the Business Diva on it. You need your own show on Sackheads. You do, Richard Herschel Griffin. But Biz Social Personal Touch made this lovely mug for me as a gift, and you can get yours without the lipstick on the side. As a gift for me, and I absolutely love it. And if you want something like this, you can contact John Campbell in the Facey chat, and I will give you his information. Oh, wait a minute. He's going to post a link in the Facey chat as well, where you can get yourself a mug. And if you are listening to this via download, and you can get all kinds of other promotional gifts to reach out to your business leads and things like that as well. You can also go on my Facebook page and get all kinds of information about Biz Social Personal Touch as well. It actually, anywhere Money Talk with Melanie is moneytalkwithmelanie.com. You can get information about any of my sponsors, TaxMama.com, the one and only Eva Rosenberg, who I'm sure is probably relaxing on some island somewhere after the busy tax season, or of course Robert Houston from creditrepair.biz, who does all kinds of wonderful things for not only business credit but your personal credit as well. I figured as long as I was talking sponsors, I just get them all in there. And I really do appreciate all of their support. I just people pay money to sponsor my show. It is a wonderful, beautiful thing, and I do indeed appreciate their support. Got to talk some business news. Got to talk tariffs for just a second. President Trump is playing hardball with the tariff situation. The Chinese negotiators are on their way back to China as we speak. There has been no deal. I guess they didn't read the Art of the Deal Chinese version, Chinese translation. They did not know that he was not going to be, that as President Trump said, you're not dealing with the Obama administration anymore. I don't know what you all were thinking, but apparently they tried to change the game at the last minute, and President Trump wasn't having it. So that's what happened, and the negotiators are on a plane back to China. So, and he put the paperwork in to raise the tariffs, I think on some $200 billion worth of goods, to 25%. Hey, Ron Edwards, the one and only Ron Edwards, brand new Ron Edwards notebook coming your way during the next commercial break, by the way. Looking forward to that. But he's giving them some time to pull themselves together. So maybe they're going to pull themselves together. Maybe there will be a full-fledged tariff war. I think they're going to pull it together. I think something's going to happen, and they're going to pull it together, and it's going to be good for everybody. I think what needs to happen, China's not like the U.S. Like, they don't have all kinds of, choices and transparency with their government. Doesn't quite work that way in China. So, because they're a communist country, so it doesn't work that way. So their president needs to come out looking good. So there has to be some kind of shenanigans as far as they're concerned. So I think that's probably where the issue is as far as President Xi is concerned. So I think that there needs to be some they need to do the proper propaganda before they go through with any deal where they're going to lose. They're dealing with President Trump. They're not going to win this one. You're just not. So, right, exactly, Doug. They need to save face because they're not going to win. Their economy is not nearly as strong as ours. It's not nearly as large as ours, and they're in a whole lot of debt. And for someone for the United States to say China's in a whole lot of debt and we're in a whole lot of debt, China's in a whole lot of debt. And we're in a whole lot of debt, but not near as much as China is. So, we're just in a much stronger position. They can make things uncomfortable as far as, dealing our relationship with, North Korea and things like that. But from an economic perspective, not so much. They're not holding a very strong hand. So, and what I'll say, and Uber went public today, and not a very strong showing. So that's going to be interesting to see as well. That's the other kind of big thing that happened. Katina person in the Facey chat said, did he tell them they were not dealing with the Obama administration? Yeah, he said something to the effect of they're not dealing with the Obama administration or Sleepy Joe's administration. Are you surprised by this? He didn't, he was like, President Xi is my boy and all, but this is not how we do things. You don't change the game in the last minute. Yeah, he said something like that. And that's the kind of stuff that he's got to not do. Like you can't do that. Like we have to make him look. We're gonna have to make the president of China look good in the process somehow, or China's gonna have to figure out a way to do that. But we're not going to be able to glue. Katina said, I love, that's the exact kind of shade that Katina does love. Okay, we're coming up against our first commercial break and a brand new Ron Edwards notebook coming your way. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We will be back in 1 moment.
Since the federal government refuses to protect our southern borders, what are we the people to do? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. Recently, a small band of concerned Americans began patrolling our southern border and detaining illegal border crossers streaming into and abusing our republic. The United Constitutional Patriots have been vilified by the American Communist Leftist Union, better known as the American Civil Liberties Union, who labeled the Patriots as fascists, militia organizations, illegally detaining and kidnapping asylum seekers, yet they ignore the fact that the federal government has refused to carry out its constitutional mandated duty to protect our republic. As a result, thousands of Americans annually are murdered, raped, robbed, and stabbed, while taxpayers pay almost $200 billion to house, educate, give medical care, and whatever else the little darlings who refuse to assimilate into American society want. George Soros and others are paying elected officials to forego their constitutionally mandated duties in order to overrun America with illegals and destroy her from within, thus forcing sovereign citizens to do what the government refuses to do. I'm Ron Edwards. Join me Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on AmericaMatters.us, Saturdays at 6 p.m. Mountain on KYAH AM 540 in Delta, Utah, and 12 a.m. Sundays on Talk America Radio Network.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialists remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. If you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
We're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. I was busy trying not to crack up at Ron Edwards' notebook. Jeez, Ron. My goodness. He's just so, oh man. He's amazing. If you didn't hear that, like, you need to go back and listen to that notebook. His most recent one on illegal. And he just doesn't pull any punches at all, like ever. Doesn't do politically correct. Just doesn't. And it just cracks me up every time. And by the way, I can always trust Ron to, not do anything naughty on his notebooks or anything like that. So the first time you guys are listening to it is the first time I'm listening to it, because I kind of like to have that authentic reaction for those of you who are watching it on via Facebook Live. So it's always the first time that I'm listening to it. And that was another really good one. But I almost fell out laughing because it was just really funny. I thought it was funny anyway. Anyhow, my guest for the first hour is Joe Murphy. He's a best-selling author. The name of his most recent book is Living Full Tilt, Celebrating Life. Now, you may be asking yourself, why does Melanie have a guest on talking about celebrating life with the business and money show? Well, you are about to find out once you meet the wonderful Joe Murphy, who, like I said, I met at the National Publicity Summit in Manhattan about a month ago. And without further, instead of me doing your bio, Joe, I thought it would be a good idea if you just did a similar pitch to what you did with me in Manhattan, and then I think my audience will understand why I had you on the show.
Well, thank you, Melanie. It's a pleasure to be here with your audience, and I appreciate this opportunity. The reason we got along is that my talk, what my book, Living Full Tilt, Celebrating Life, is about is acknowledging and utilizing our choice to make the best of whatever situation we're facing. Whatever we're doing in life, whatever is facing us and coming our way, we see it. Maybe it's a dark tunnel, maybe it's a train coming right at us. We can choose to see ourselves as a victim and get hit, or we can choose to see life giving us an opportunity to make the best of it and to find the value there. There's something life has given us to learn so that we can add and enhance our lives. This is not always easy to understand, but it's always within our power. And our power is what Money Talk with Melanie is all about.
Indeed it is. And so I always think that every now and then that we need to talk about the part of entrepreneurship that drives us, the part of entrepreneurship that makes it most difficult, in my opinion. And that's this part. That's the life part to me. At least that's my experience. That makes it most difficult in accomplishing our goals. It's how we approach life, how we feel about life. And that's why I thought it would be a good idea to have you on the show. And that it may seem strange at first, but when you think about it, and anybody who's ever run their own business or tried to accomplish a big goal knows that when it comes down to it, it really is your perspective on life that will help you in accomplishing that goal. Yes. It's your organization. Yes, it's your discipline. Yes, it's your support system. Yes, it's all of those things. But ultimately, it's your outlook on life that really, in my opinion, does it. And whether you're appreciative of it or not, and that kind of thing. So tell us how you got from point A to point B, and what made you decide to write the book and all of that kind of stuff, because that's what we talked about at the summit.
Well, Melanie, my career has been about looking at society, finding challenges that people were facing, finding one that resonated with me, creating the solution, and taking it to the marketplace. After the last company I created, after it failed, I had to pay my bills. I had to take care of my family. So I took a position temporarily driving with Lyft driver. And I discovered I loved driving with Lyft. I loved to drive, and I love meeting, talking with people, and sharing insights and listening to people share their experiences and what they were worried about, what train was about to knock them off their track, and then sharing with them an insight on how to best handle that. And made my day.
I love the fact that that's the part of the job that you love, and I think everybody kind of varies with what they want in their Lyft driver or in their Uber driver. And I think it depends on your mood too. Like sometimes you really want to chat up your Uber driver or your Lyft driver and talk about, all the philosophical things about life, and then sometimes you just want peace and quiet. I can really, and I'm sure that's been your experience too as a driver, right?
Oh yes, I've given over 8,000 rides in my time.
Wow!
And I have probably about 10% of my passengers do not want to talk, and I respect that. We have a quiet ride where they do their telephone calls, or they're on their computer, or maybe they're just thinking ahead, thinking about their day. But whatever the passenger wants is my chief goal is giving them the safe ride that they're looking for and they expect, but also giving them the time to reflect and do what they need to do. And those that are open to it, receptive to sharing what has them worried, or what is their biggest obstacle at the moment, sharing that, and then listening to an insight, whether it's a closely guarded secret passed down through the ages, or it's the latest finding insight about the power within us. People often tell me when they get out, they say, "Well, Joe, this was what I needed right now, because this has shows me what to do." I've been called the car counselor.
So you discovered through driving Lyft that you actually had a gift.
Oh, I love this. We're all in this game together.
That is very true. Now, what was your business before you started driving for Lyft? You said you had a business that failed. What was that business?
Well, this is kind of like a few weeks back. You had a money talk moment talking about life insurance for stay-at-home parents.
Yes.
I was in the life insurance business, and I quickly discovered and realized that a lot of families could not afford all the insurance security they wanted for their family. So I asked the question, what can I do? Because I've learned that the questions we ask get answered. So I asked, what can I do? And I had a vision of a better way. And I created a whole new platform where every family in this country could have be able to have all the insurance security they wanted, no money out of their pocket, ever. And because I was in insurance, and I know the insurance is highly regulated, I worked with the Department of Insurance for 2 years to get their approval, because I wasn't doing anything new, but the different pieces that I put together had never been put together like I did. So I created a whole new platform. I created an association called the Family Resource Network. I created a network marketing company, and I had my life insurance agency. And we work with members only, but anybody can be a member. And a member could take whatever we sold. We gave them a credit line, but we could never send them a bill. So families came in and said, Joe, I want $100,000 in life insurance. Or we had some doctors and lawyers who said, I need $5 million of life insurance for my family. They would apply for the insurance with one of the companies we represented. We would get that policy for them in their name, deliver it to them, and we paid the premiums. Now, nothing is free.
Right.
So what we did was we had a lien on that policy that when they pass away, whenever that day was, their family would receive the insurance money they wanted them to have, but we would make sure there was enough money there also for us to get paid back.
Right, minus the premiums.
All the premiums we paid out plus interest, we'd be paid at that time.
Right.
Okay. So people thought we went from 0 to 100,000 customers in 90 days, and quite frankly, we would have controlled the new business market for life insurance in this country.
Sure.
But because why would it was a no-brainer? Why would you say no?
Right.
I mean, so, and then we had a network marketing company, and we said, now, if you think this is great, tell your friends what we did for you, that you got this, no money out of your pocket, you have it in your hands today, not what may happen someday, but right now, and tell them to come see us if they'd like for it too, and if they do, we will pay you.
Right.
So, and then after giving you 1 year to build your income up, we will begin to make a deduction from the check we're paying you to pay us off early. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. So where was I'm trying to figure out where the failure in the business model was.
Well, there was no failure in the business model. The failure was the problem was the Department of Insurance. They took me to court, took my licenses away. I took it to the Texas Supreme Court, and I pointed out that the Department of Insurance in court, taking my licenses away, they acknowledged they had no evidence I did anything wrong. I did nothing wrong. They told me I could do it. They never told me to stop. They violated my due process. But none of this mattered because they were not going to let me do it after they had told me I could.
I'm licensed too, and I'm trying to figure out where I can't figure out off the top of my head where the violation is. Just like off the top of my.
Yeah. There was no violation. There was zero violation.
They just didn't want you to do it because really, that's amazing. I could see why they wouldn't want you to do it because you're overcoming that. That is in the Facebook chat. There are reaction buttons, and I see a couple of people reacting angrily, and I can understand why. Like that is really infuriating.
Yes, my wife. We lost every. Now listen to this: the policies that had been issued, that the insurance companies had issued and the people had in their hands, the Department of Insurance required that these policies be rescinded, be sent back to the insurance company. Every one of them invalidated, and the people that had never paid any money out of their pocket received the refunds.
Wow.
The Department of Insurance, they were out to totally financially destroy me.
Was this
and
the
they did.
feds? Or was this your state or the feds?
No, state insurance
It's your
is
state.
state run.
Right. What state was this?
Texas.
Really?
Yes. And the Texas Supreme Court, I took it to the Texas Supreme Court, and the Texas Supreme Court said that they ruled, well, what happened was wrong. The state was wrong to take your licenses away, but we are not going to hear your case. We are going to let it stand.
Wow. So the ruling of the lower court stood.
Yeah. And see, it was all done through administrative procedure. Administrative procedure is a third body of law in this country. It's the law that most people aren't unfamiliar with. It's only for businesses in dealing with the government.
Right.
And the big problem with that is there's basically no separation of power.
Right.
Because there is a judge, but the judge does not make a decision. The judge issues what's called a proposal, and he sends his proposal to both attorneys, the prosecutor and the defense, and says, what do you think? And they can make the changes they want to make in it, suggest changes, but you can imagine how frequently the judge listens to the defense. It's like imagine you're in your city, the DA is a hotly contested election. He needs something to save his day, so he has a high-profile murder case that has gone unresolved, and suddenly he says, "You did it." Now I have no evidence you did it, but you did it. And so you go to court, he charges you for it, you go to court, and the judge listens and writes his proposal and sends it to the two attorneys, and the the prosecutor can say, well, I don't care what you said, Judge, she did it, and that's all there is to it, and that is the decision that is rendered.
What were you charged with? That they would, because it has to be something major for your insurance license to get pulled.
Oh yeah, they found me guilty of fraudulent and dishonest practices. There was nothing. They had looked at they had studied, worked at my case for 2 years, found nothing they could find, nothing that was wrong, and yet they found, and then said they told me I could do it. Yet they found me guilty of fraud and dishonest practices.
Right. They're not going to take responsibility for the fact that they gave you permission to do it.
Right.
That is stunning. And
so you may imagine, I mean, it was stunning. We lost everything except each other.
I'm just thinking of all the crap that you go through. Anybody who's got their license knows all the crap that you go through, especially in that particular area, the financial area, before you get your license. Like they send you through all these hoops. Right. And they're really strict. So I don't see you opening like an entire business using that model if they don't give you permission to do it. Katina, you're licensed, so you know what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
So, you know, you have to do a whole thing on money laundering. So, a whole class.
So visualize this. I had the case, the court records had the prosecuting, the attorney for the state, my attorney, and the judge meeting in the judge's chambers and having a discussion before I ever went to court. And the state attorney, the prosecuting attorney, says, "Judge, this is what they're doing. We understand what they're doing. We can't find anything wrong with it, but we're not going to let them do it." And so then when the judge goes to court, the judge issues his proposal. The Department of Insurance made their comments, and the Commissioner of Insurance finds me guilty of fraudulent and dishonest practices, even though their own attorney, they knew about it, they had approved it, they had told the judge hearing the case, we have no evidence he did anything wrong.
Because there has to be something that, I mean, there's no fraud. There's no fraud that I can think of. Right. And Richard in the Facey chat said, it's real simple. You were threatening the big boys. That's the first thing that popped in my head was what person on what agency that's politically connected in Texas whose business you were threatening. That's what came to my mind, because none of that makes any sense to me.
Right.
Because it has to be, there's no fraud there.
No, it was everything. Everything was straight up. Families were getting the insurance they needed. Families were making money they needed for the society, for this country. And yet it was all taken away because the Department of Insurance was not going to let the status quo get disrupted.
And what's really infuriating about that, really makes me mad about that, really, I mean, not only did they ruin your business, but instead of reaching out to you and seeing how they could partner with you so that the people who were benefiting from that wouldn't get affected, they just decided to screw everybody, pardon my language, out of greed.
Yeah.
Out of greed.
That's
like
right.
that is what is the most bothersome about that whole entire scenario.
Right. I mean, the untold, uncountable people, families that could have had insurance and making money, more and more, all the money they needed for this country, for the lifestyle they wanted. All of that was in place. All of it was ready to go. Plus, on top of that, we using the life insurance, we would have been a major player in retirement savings. You know, when your person is putting together their financial portfolio, you want to have some money in stocks and equities, but you also want to have some money in secured savings.
Of course. And
CDs, bonds. Well, we had using the life insurance, we had a secured savings where people could invest, put money and have the principal guaranteed 100% and receive 6 to 8% interest annual guaranteed. And they can't get that anywhere else. You cannot get that today or anytime, but we had it in place for it to happen. People would have had the retirement centers they needed for their secured savings to put it in a place that could rival many stocks.
The mistake you made was you didn't shake the right hands. You didn't I mean, really. I mean, you know, I'm somebody who's involved in politics, and you know, you didn't shake the right hands. You didn't get the right people's permission before you decided to do that. Well, because you thought it was America, and that, you know, you could just like start businesses like that, and it would be cool. And for the most part, that's true. For the most part, that's true. Except in certain areas, in certain businesses. Like, I would think anything medical and insurance and banking is probably off limits. Unfortunately.
But I would say this too, Melanie. All in all, I see it as this is kind of one of those things where we have the power. I was saying earlier, we have the power to see, is this train going to, am I a victim, or what gift was here for me? And at first, all I could see was being a victim. I felt betrayed. I felt angry. I was just mad and hurt. I had all kinds of mixed negative emotions. But I came to realize that it was a gift for me in this, because what was greater was really my book that I have written about the 3 living full tilt, celebrate life, how to make the best of whatever life has thrown at you, wherever you're at, whatever you're facing, how to make the best of it. And it's all about love and forgiveness. Let go of the past. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. We cannot engage fully in this moment if we have not let go of things that happened in the past. Because if we haven't forgiven and let go, our parts of our mind and heart is still stuck there, and we can't, which means we can't fully engage, be it play at our strength today, here and now.
That's very true.
So this, as much as hard as it was for me to understand, this what I created next is this book and this. I'm creating an online community where we work together, we share our experiences together, we grow together. This is what we can do with what life gives us. It's kind of like what I think of as a pop quiz. Life gives me a little pop quiz to see how I'm going to react, and reacting is almost always negative, if for no other reason I wasn't expecting that intrusion. Or am I going to respond and ask myself, what's the best thing for me to do now? Find the gift. Find the gift. There's always a gift. What's the best thing for me to do now?
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. And so after the case was final and you decided what you were going to do now, what did you decide to do?
Well, I decided to, I had to drive with Lyft to pay bills, and then having my book. First, I was going to start writing. The book was going to be about the law of attraction, about how to attract to you what you want in life. But then, as my conversations with my passengers, and we had many, I've had over like 4,000 deep conversations during this time. I learned that the most important thing we can do, and what people need to do first, is learn to love themselves. Let me give you an example. Think back to when you visualize back to when you were born. When you were born, and the doctor, the nurse, handed you to your mother after she had just given birth to you. Okay, I can visualize her radiating joy and love and pride. That's my baby. Can you visualize that?
I don't know how happy she was about that. I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying to you, Melanie, is that, and what I say to my passengers is that's how our Creator looks at us every moment.
That's good stuff.
Every moment, we are loved more than we can understand, more than we can comprehend. We are loved. But the problem is, if we have let something disrupt our feeling of love for ourselves, we have effectively tied a knot in that love coming to us. Because if we don't feel love, we can't receive love. Does that see what I'm saying?
It does. It certainly does.
Okay.
And a lot of times we let how other people treat us or, outside things that happen, we let it be a reflection on us, and it's really a reflection on the other person.
Right, absolutely. We take things personal that aren't personal, because personal means ownership. If I didn't say it, do it, or think it, it may be about me,
right?
But it's not personal to me because it's personal to the person that did.
Exactly.
And when I take it personal, then I am making myself a victim. I'm giving them my power.
That's exactly true. And it takes a long time to get to that point, and it is a very healing thing, because when stuff goes wrong or when people don't treat us well, we tend to go over in our minds and think, what is it that we could have done differently to make things turn out differently, to make that person treat us better, or to make people do right? What could I have done differently to make that person do right? When the answer is nothing.
Absolutely. It's not within our power. We can't make another person do anything. we have enough trouble controlling being in charge of our own thoughts, words, and actions, because sometimes that can be difficult.
Exactly. And once you get to that point, forgiveness is easy after that. Once you it really is. I think that weight is lifted once you start to understand that whatever it is that person did to you is them. It's not you. You understand it, once you really understand that it's not you. Now, sometimes it is you. Like if you legitimately did something, like maybe it was you. Like, if you punch somebody in the face and they punched you back in the face, okay, then that was you.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying. But if somebody is, mean to you, and you didn't do anything, or in your case where you obeyed the laws and you did everything that you were supposed to do, and it just didn't work out the way it was supposed to, you can't sit around and beat yourself up about that. Otherwise, you would just have, stewed in that negativity, and and the only person it would have affected is you too, because I can guarantee you that those heathens are moving about their life just fine and not even thinking about what they did.
Mm-hmm. Right, moved on. They moved on.
Exactly.
You're familiar with Jack Campbell, Jack Canfield, author of Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so of course. So about a dozen years ago, my wife and I had gone to see him in Dallas speaking, and so visualize a big auditorium. I mean, probably 1,000 people in there, and we're on these chairs sitting, and in the middle of the day, he's walking out in the crowd talking to us, and as about 4 rows behind me, he stops and turns to this young woman at the end. And he says, I ask her, how are you doing? Are you glad you're here? And she's all bubbly, excited. Yes, I'm having a great time. I'm learning. This is so great. Thank you. And then he tore into her. He tore her up one side and down the other and put his heel on what was left. And then he said, well, what do you think now? And she was crying. And he said, there's only one thing for you to be thinking. That is, what's his problem? Do not take the baggage of my emotions. Just look at my words, code and this code the words themselves, and look and weigh them out. But I concluded that she must have been a part of this show to help him make this point, because after a dozen years, my wife and I remember that point very well. He was saying to her, don't take things personal that are not personal.
Right. Exactly.
Because that drove it home.
And for the most part, and this is the other thing, we don't want to believe that, because I think we view everything through our own personal lens, right? Our own personal set of values.
Yeah.
I know. That's like the real funny part, right? So we think everybody should think the way we think. Because, of course, the way we think is a model of perfection. Right?
Right.
It's not, the way we think is not a compilation of our experiences and our upbringing and our values or anything like that. It's everybody else. But ours is perfection. No, but Christina said that's true for her. Of course, just for you. But for real, I think for the most part, everybody's doing the best they can with what they got. That's the thing. For the most, I mean, some people are legitimate jerks, but and just don't care and are evil. There's legitimate evil in the world, but there's no question about that. But I think for the average, run of the mill. Destroying the average run-of-the-mill person is doing the best they can with what they got. Yeah, destroying the insurance business is personal. I don't disagree, Eric, about that. And I would put that in the category of evil, something that, you got to let God take care of. Right. I would put that in the evil category, just if for no other reason than it affected more than one person and it was for something good to do. And Katina says she's awesome and as close to perfect as there is on earth. Of course you are, sugar. Me too. But I think for the most part, people are doing the best they can, and you know, the best they can just comes out the way it comes out, and sometimes it doesn't come out well. And I assume that there are times when my best doesn't come out as awesome as I think it did.
That's right. Well, you may remember, when President Nixon was at one point, when he was president, he said something to the effect of, "I understand. I know that you know what I said, but what you don't know is what I said was not what I intended to say." Because most of us, if not all of us, have moments when we think, "Where'd those words come from?" We don't, things happen that we're not at our best at that moment. But it's kind of like you may have likely heard it said, we can be driving down the road, and the person that passes us, we think, "Oh, that person's just driving way too fast," and then the person that we have to pass, well, that person is so slow. It's like you were saying a few moments ago, our model is right, and we don't understand their model because we're not in their shoes. This Ian McClan said that be kind to everyone because everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
Exactly. And I always say that, you know, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand this, and I try to bear this in mind, and God knows I forget probably constantly, that, you know, only God sees things 360. You know what I mean? Like we're only seeing like usually like the front of things. We only use 10% of our brains, for God's sake. So, you know, we're only processing with the little bit of our brains that we use. We're only seeing a little bit of that person, and we're not seeing it from a 360-degree angle, and we're certainly not seeing it from within that person's heart. So as much as we want to, you know, really decide that we know everything that's going on, we usually do not.
We don't.
You know what I mean? Like, we really honestly have no clue. So
yes, absolutely.
You got to really try hard to just back away and not do that. And Katina said it's scary and sad that they could go after him like that, and the courts didn't make it right. I agree. It makes me angry. I'm angry about that situation too, and I'm wondering if there's any way for you to try that again. Like if enough time has passed, if it could be if regulations have changed or anything like that, like if it could be fought again on a different basis. You know how that happens sometimes?
Yes, I could never do them again. I couldn't even go to a different state because the Department of Insurance found me guilty of fraud.
Right,
and
so you don't even have your license. Right.
They poisoned the well. I mean, nobody would talk to me seriously about that.
Right.
But at the same time, even the Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor. He was a psychiatrist before he was put in the concentration camp. His whole family was there with him. He saw each one of them die. He survived, got out and wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he said one of the great things he said was even in the most direst times, man retains his greatest power, the power to choose. It's always ours. No one can take that from us. And even if I could do the state, even if I were able to, with that much money at stake and involved, there would always be outside forces that could take it away because it's external. But the internal is learning to love ourselves, forgive ourselves, and find our purpose and serve that. And that's all internal. Those are the three choices, three powers that we have that no one can take away from us and that will make our life what we want it to be, regardless of how it looks to someone else.
That's incredible that you were able to come to that conclusion under those circumstances, because as you can tell from the reactions of, some of my listeners in the Facey chat, they're livid. They're absolutely livid that happened to you. I'm livid. Like I'm trying to I'm ready to write a letter to Senator Cruz and be like, what the heck, dude? Like what the heck?
How do you call that freedom? How do you call that justice? I mean, the Supreme Court said
was he your
this
senator
was
then? Was he your senator then? When this happened, how long ago was this?
Oh, this all happened in 01. It started in 01. I mean, it's been too long ago now. It was a long drawn out battle.
That's ridiculous. Like that just doesn't make any sense at all.
It's just controlling the status quo. It's kind of like, today, almost the entire world carries smartphones. But back there wasn't a time before Apple brought out the smartphone, the feature phone, what we call the feature phone, that was the phone at the time. And the Nokia and Ericsson, they controlled the market. And when Apple brought out when they first saw the first smartphone, pardon me, they said, "No, that's nothing. They won't make any difference." And had this been had there been a government control over it, where they could have said, "We're going to protect the status quo," we would still be using feature phones.
Right. Let me ask you this. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I want to ask you one more question about your business and your business model. Did you have people under you that were selling insurance too, and did they also lose their licenses, or was it just you?
I'm the only one that lost my license. I had agents in 40. We had agents in 40 states because I wanted to include the insurance agents. One of my insurance company liaisons, district manager, said, "Joe, you don't need insurance agents for this." But I wanted everyone to raise the tide, raise the level, the boats for everyone. The insurance agents, let each insured have an agent that they could deal with first, face to face.
And you can't have an agency unless you're licensed. I was trying to think of a business model where you could still do the business and not be licensed, but you do have to be licensed to even have an agency. Yeah, I was just remembering that. That is just that's just super frustrating. Where can you get the that's just angering, physically making my person hot, angering. Where can we buy the book so that we can learn how to not be super angry about this?
Well,
everybody in my Facey chat needs to pick up a copy because they are all super pissed right now, just like I am.
This is fully detailed in my book, and it's also fully detailed how I learned to get over it, how I learned to see that every event is a gift. And my book is available on Amazon.
Okay, good. And it's called Living Full Tilt, correct? I put a link to your website in the Facebook chat too, a couple times.
I appreciate that.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, Melanie, I am so grateful to be with you today and to have this opportunity to chat and to share, because it really is all about learning to love ourselves and to forgive, to find our purpose, serve our purpose, and be in the flow of love.
I agree. And I really am glad that you shared the background with us, because it really shows how far you were able to come and how well your methods work. Because it's clear to me, and I'm sure it's clear to the audience, that you really are truly at peace with the situation. So
well, thank you, Melanie.
No, so I think, it's a good idea to pick up the book and read how you did it, because I'm ready to go key somebody's car for real. I'm mad. I would never do that, but I'm super mad right now. Right?
Well, it has been a pleasure.
Infuriating. It has been a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Murphy. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Just call me Joe. Melanie,
you,
have
Joe.
a great day.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye. That was Joe Murphy, the author of the Amazon bestseller, Living Full Tilt, Celebrate Life. And you can get that book on Amazon. You can also visit his website at livingfulltilt.com. Thank you guys for listening. My next guest is Christy Matoon. She's a best-selling author who's in a subconscious mind expert. Similar topic, but it's on a totally different vibe. And we're going to talk about how to do that in business. We're going to take a quick break and then we will be right back. I want to thank you all for listening. Hang on for my next guest. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunix. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunix.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and my guest for the second hour is Christy Matoon. She's a subconscious expert, speaker, and author, and we're going to talk to her today about mind rewire and subconscious change in a business context. I thought that this was some information that those budding entrepreneurs could probably use. Again, it's kind of a mind kind of show, mind and consciousness and lifestyle kind of show. And every now and then I like to talk about stuff like this because I think it's a very important part of your business pursuits, your career pursuits, just your life. And I think it's a part that we don't talk about in business. Whenever you think of a business show, you're always thinking about the market and you're thinking about, all the nuts and bolts of entrepreneurship and of business and of finance, but you're not, people rarely ever talk about the spiritual side and the part that drives us and the mechanics of what drives us. And I think that part is really important, like I said in the opening of the first show. So without further ado, my guest for the second hour, Christy Matoon. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, you're welcome. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, by the way?
You are. That was perfect.
Oh, good. So this is your first time on the show, so I'm hoping that you can give the audience an idea about your background. I don't think subconscious mind expert is a common descriptor. Like, I know you don't ever see anything on Indeed for, ads for subconscious mind experts. So that's not
right.
So
a little bit different.
So tell us a little bit about your background and about what a subconscious mind expert is.
Yeah, my background's a little bit sordid, and how I got into this line of work is actually because of my background. So I basically came from a place, from a kind of tortured childhood, I guess you could say, and not really recognizing or knowing that. At the point that I got super sick, I was a pastry chef for 20 some odd years, and everybody always said the same things to me. It's your diet, it's, what you've been eating. Obviously, a pastry chef's not the most healthy thing in the world to do for a living. And my body was basically falling apart. I had hit 300 pounds. They were calling me a hormoneless wonder because you do blood panels and there's like no hormones left in my body. And it was just all this huge stress load. So I just started changing everything, trying to figure it out. And basically what they had told me was, you're knocking on death's door. Like, you either start losing the weight and really start trying to change this, or you're probably going to be done. So I did start doing the typical, which was exercise and diet and all the stuff that everybody, normally goes for first, and got through the weight, got back down to 150 pounds, started regaining some of my health. And what I had noticed was there was something that still was deeply not right. At some point, I had ended up in a psychiatrist's office and did all the therapy and all, again, the typical things that we all do. And what I found out was that I didn't remember my childhood, and I didn't even know that I didn't know it, which was kind of one of the more interesting parts of it. And in not knowing that I didn't know my childhood and all the things that had happened in our childhood, it was the chemicals and hormones that were left in my system. So all the cortisol, right? The stress hormones, all the fight and flight, the things that get locked into your system. I was still living under that as an adult. And when I finally recognized that and started changing that part of it, which is what equates to the subconscious mind, all of a sudden the disease processes started changing. The weight was already gone. My diet was under control. I was doing all the right things. It was the stuff that was locked in my subconscious that was keeping me sick. And when I recognized that, everything changed.
Interesting. Now, I've heard that before, and I think it's anybody who's been through probably any kind of therapy or any kind of stressful childhood, whether they remember it or not, probably has heard similar diagnoses, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
has had it explained to them that way. So
yeah,
and there are some people, especially, and this show is in a Christian context. In other words, I'm not afraid to say that that I believe in God. I'm not afraid to mention Christianity. There's a lot of people in the media who don't do that. I don't really understand why. I guess it's a turnoff to some people, or they think that you're trying to like baptize them through the internet. I don't know. I don't know.
That's funny.
Like,
oh,
no, I'm just telling you what I'm into, not trying to baptize you through the, just telling you what my thing is. If it's your thing too, great. If not, I hope it will be someday. But I'm just telling you what my thing is. But I think that there are a lot of Christians who don't, like, there's this section of Christians, I should say, that don't think that that's a real thing. And I have a problem with that, to be honest, because I think it is.
Well, and I do too.
Yeah,
I do too, honestly, because I was born in a Christian home. My granddaddy was actually a preacher. And I tell these stories all the time. It's just the same old, same old. And we were beat over the head with the Bible. So my understanding of it was not a good thing, right? I mean, it was, again, you're kind of a tortured soul at that point because you're afraid to do anything. And I think that was part of the stress load. Coming out the other side of it was recognizing that what God is to me isn't necessarily what's written in that book. Coming out on the other side of it for me, and I love the stories. I mean, we were, brought up with all these things, and the idea of the cross is, such a beautiful thing. But there was a component to it that just didn't make sense. And the component that I understand now is that the physical body was made a certain way, and it works a certain way. And whether you're a Christian or not, that still works for you. That physical body is yours. It was yours to take care of. It's yours to do with as you will. And when you understand how it works, the chemicals, the hormones, the idea of the subconscious mind, even the God aspect of it, it's interesting how you can line all of that back up and totally change who you are and who you think you are based on what happened in your past.
I don't think that that's necessarily against what's in the Bible. I would argue that's aligned with what's in the Bible. But now,
I believe so. I believe so now too. But when I was figuring that out, it didn't make sense to me.
Oh, okay. And now, what I would argue is that there are a lot of people out there that don't teach it correctly. That would make you think that it doesn't align with what's in the Bible. I would argue that. Yeah. I would agree with that there are people who do, and if you don't read it for yourself, it's very easy to get to get misled, and it's unfortunate that people will use the Bible that way to like really mess people up and turn people against God. Which is
and I think that happens with a lot of everything.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the subconscious part of it, what we're really talking about, the subconscious itself is just a concept. And I just actually did a YouTube video on this. It's not even a real thing.
Oh, wow.
They made up the idea of the subconscious mind. I don't even know, it was back in the 40s or 50s, and it was psychiatrists, trying to figure out a way that they could talk about the idea that your brain stores information.
Right.
If you go and you can look all over at maps of the brain, and you will not find one that has a label anywhere on it that says subconscious. And the conscious mind is the same idea. It's a concept that we use to talk about what happens, that part of the mind that gets aha moments, that thinks, that's able to think outside of the realm of what's stored inside your brain. And I kind of giggle because everybody always flashes up the picture of the iceberg idea, where the 5% floating above the water is your consciousness, and the 95% underneath the water is your subconsciousness, and that's that information that's hidden from you. Well, the truth is it's not hidden from you. And so how the brain works is when you say a word, your brain will literally go looking for information on that word. And so you hear that information in the subconscious is kind of hidden from you, and your brain goes, well, what does hidden mean? Hidden means I can't find it. So we think it's something that's not accessible. And that is so far from the truth. The truth is it actually has to do with the neuroplastic that forms in your brain every time you think a thought, and it creates those neural pathways.
Right.
So your brain, every time you think a thought, it's the neuron and the protein combining, right, firing together. The more that happens, the more you think the thought, you dig the dig the loop deeper and deeper, and it gets easier and easier to do. We pull those synapses closer together. It gets, whatever the thing is you're practicing, whatever the thing is you're thinking about, gets easier and easier to do. And so the concept of the subconscious, the way we think about it's not even real. It's all about the chemicals, the neurons, the hormones inside your body, and how it all works together to make you a whole person. And
this is the same
totally
concept
alterable.
behind how you break bad habits, right? And how you change your mindset. And if you ever read, I've read articles on this before, and if you ever read articles on it, I'm a visual learner, so when I see it, I can really understand it better. If you're a visual learner too, those of you who are listening to this, I would encourage you to go look it up and look up some videos on what she's describing. But it makes a whole lot of sense when you see the visual version of that.
Right.
And I think, like you said earlier, I think that the Bible aptly describes that process. It just doesn't describe it the way you just described it, but I think it describes it nonetheless. You know what it doesn't describe it doesn't describe the details of the reasons why it happens that way. It just says that it happens. It just tells you what to do.
The Bible wasn't written from a scientific standpoint. It was written from a spiritual standpoint. Right. It was written in a language that doesn't even translate into our language.
Right, sure.
It was written in Jewish idioms, and it was written in Hebrew, and it was written in Aramaic, and some of the words just don't translate. So we don't even really have an accurate translation.
Right.
And I think it's super interesting when you try and draw the parallels and bring it across, you still come up with the same information.
Right.
And the idea of the subconscious mind being something that's alterable, to me, gets really interesting. Because that literally means you can pretty much do anything if you can program or train your brain to think you can do anything. It's totally what you believe.
Now, I've always thought that, like, especially since there's YouTube now, like brain surgery, YouTube video. Like, totally, like, the mind's endless. Like, I'm joking, but only a little bit, though. Like,
Well, it's all what you learn, right? So, I mean, whatever you were taught, and this is where, for me, like, I work with a lot of people with PTSD, with, huge traumatic issues in their background. And the deeper or the younger they were when the thing happened, usually it's harder to flesh out. Usually it's harder. And literally, if you think of yourself on a timeline, you have to get a minute before that thing even happened. You know, the brain, the subconscious mind, theoretically, doesn't understand time, which is why if something happened to you at 2 years old and now you're 57, you still have those attributes of that 2-year-old, that's where that comes from.
And you don't know to go get it either.
Oh, no, it just starts happening. It's all the patterns, the cycles. People tell me all the time, I just feel stuck. It's the glass ceiling, like you're talking about. This is a business show. It's the glass ceiling in a business. I can't get over this. What is this? What is the glass ceiling? Well, it's something that you believe. It's something you were probably taught at a super young age, and sometimes it's not traumatic. Sometimes it's something super silly. Sometimes it's things and for whatever reason, you locked into it, and your, older version of yourself still believes whatever that kid thought he knew at the point that the thing happened. My best incident or understanding of it was a guy actually came to me with money issues and couldn't figure it out why he was always afraid he'd lose it, couldn't figure out why he always felt like he was going to lose his money. And he had a lot of money. He wasn't poor by any means of the word. And we started going back through some of the things that he thought were an issue for him, and all of a sudden the memory just came to him. He had a memory where he found a dime, and it was a really shiny dime, and he was probably 5 or 6 years old, so he was pretty young, super excited about finding this dime, and he opened his hand to show his mom, and an aunt was standing right there, and she reached over and snatched that dime out of his hand and looked at him and really sternly said, "You're just going to lose it anyway. Let me take care of it."
Ooh.
At the point that I talked to this guy, he was 63 years old. And this was still haunting him from the age of 5 or 6. And when we took care of that, guess what all of a sudden opened up for him? He lost the feeling that it was a feeling inside his gut that he was just going to keep losing everything. The feeling totally disappeared. And then he felt like he was free to go do what it was he was trying to do in his business.
And I think that what people don't understand about what you're describing, about when you go through some kind of trauma, or even if it's just a sudden extreme feeling, I think the people who are in the Christians who are in the anti-camp, they don't understand that it is the feeling that it evokes that's the issue, because they'll say it's a spiritual problem, and it's like, no, it's actually not a spiritual problem.
It's actually, and sometimes, I mean, I'll be honest, sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can be a spiritual problem. So we have to be, really good at discerning, and you have to be able, to hear from God and talk to God and all of these things, and be able to discern, okay, is this a spiritual issue? Is it an emotional issue? Is it a traumatic issue from your past? Even things like, is it an ancestral issue?
Right, I've heard that too.
Is this something that came from your mom and dad, or from somewhere even further down the line, that you just you're not even aware that this is going on, and we go back and take care of that issue, and all of a sudden you change as a person.
Very
to me,
true.
That's craziness. I'm just like, that seriously works this way. That's how we affect each other through the timeline. And when you take care of all those issues, and all of a sudden you just feel like you're free to do what you need to do, it's really interesting.
And
it can be a spiritual issue, but it also can be, and we just call this an emotional issue. On the level of what I was just now talking about with that man, this is an emotional issue.
And it certainly had to be very emotional. And I'll bet, any amount of money that had his mother had any clue that it would affect him that way, she would have never done that. Like in a zillion years. Right. It goes to what I was talking about in the first hour, which of course you weren't here for, but I had said at one point that we all kind of, we're all kind of here doing the best we can with what we got. Who knows what her parents did to her.
Or who knows what happened to them as children.
Right.
Because that remnant gets locked in our bodies too. We get the stress load from whatever they went through.
Exactly. Let me tell you, spending some time with my grandmother for a couple of weeks was eye-opening as far as my relationship with my own mother.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like the things you don't know, and the reason you feel the way you do about something may not even be your issue. It might be somebody else's issue.
Never mind. That is not on you.
Right? Yeah. Not even your issue. Not even your. And when people realize that, sometimes it goes away immediately.
Absolutely.
Sometimes there's still work to be done.
But you have to be open to. You have to be open to that, though, too, to understand that maybe you're not perfect. Maybe.
Yeah.
To examine the possibility that you might not be 100% right.
Melanie, you would not believe how many people get on calls with me, and the first thing out of their mouth is, I need to tell you this first so you understand. I'm a Christian. And then they start going through their story, and I'm just like, whoa. Like, why is that such an issue?
Well,
but for some reason it is.
Well, I think, that's a whole big old can of worms. It
is. huge can of worms. And I think some of from my understanding and from where I came from, because we did come from a Bible thumping family, or part of the family was anyway, and it was literally shoved down your throat. There was no option. I think my mother thought the Bible was some kind of thing you were supposed to use to hit people with for whatever reason. So
very effective. It's very effective if you hit people with it.
Very effective. But the information doesn't come out of it when you just hit somebody on the head with it. So I don't know, bless her heart. She had her own stuff going on too. And I think it's when you understand that, Christian or not Christian, right? If you're stuck under the guise of the Christian attitude that, and I think this is part of the thing that's wrong with it. We were taught that God was going to take care of all of it. Can he? Of course he can. Does he? Not always. He told you to.
Well, and
after the cross, he gave us the power. He told us to go work on it. He said we could go heal it. He said you're going to do greater things. And I just stand back and watch and go, wow, why aren't we?
I think where people miss it is everything that is good, as long as you know what good is and you're able to evaluate that, comes from him. But you have to understand and be able to evaluate that through the lens of the scriptures. But a lot of people miss it, right? And so they go, well, if it's not coming directly from the Bible, then it's bad. And that's not the way it works. The way it works is...
and your physical body came from God, and it works a certain way. And when you understand how to utilize it, like you can literally use your physical body. And most of us just let it go. We just like mine went crazy for a while, 300 pounds and full of all kinds of illnesses. And it never even dawned on me that I had that much control of my physical body that I could do something different with it. But that's that whole idea that you're a temple.
Right. And I think
what do you do to...
God gave you that capacity though, right? Like who gave you that ability? Who gave you that capacity?
Exactly.
So in a way, that's still the way I see it anyway. In a way that is still him, but people just think about it in the wrong. They think like you're going outside of God if you are doing anything, but you're not. You're using the tools that he gave you. So how are you going?
Well, my words to it is always just that I'm a conduit.
Sure,
I'm a conduit.
And you are.
Get information. Yep, I get information, I get energy, I get insight that sometimes you don't get about yourself, and I can point things out easily. I have people fill out a questionnaire before they start working with me, and the reason I do is because I have an ability to sit and look at it and draw lines and parallels through it. From issues to what you think's going on to situations, and it just helps clear things up faster. And I think when they have that ability to discern information, that makes a huge difference, and that is from God. That's a gift.
And so, did you study neuroscience and the brain first before you, or once you discovered this about yourself, then
it all kind of happened at the same time. At the point that I got super sick and recognized I had to fix myself and change something, I did start studying. I started trying to understand what was happening, but not really the neuroscience end of it. I started studying what most people do is like, what do I do to change this? Like, can I, working out. I actually became a personal trainer. That was the first thing I did. And then in doing that, I figured out there was more going on with the physical body than meets the eye. If your leg is hurting, sometimes it's not your leg that's hurting. It's your arm has an issue.
Right.
If we get the muscles in the arm working, guess what happens to the leg? And so it was this interesting thing. So then I became a neurokinetic therapist. And then from there, it was like, well, if that works that way, how does it interplay with the mind? Because your brain is totally doing something while all of this is going on. Sometimes it was releasing an emotion that actually released the muscle tension. Wow. It had nothing to do with, anything with the body per se, but there was an emotion that got trapped. So we would release the emotion. And then it turned into, things like looking at, I can't think of the guy's name, but the dude that wrote the emotion code. Brilliant work. Totally amazing work. And when you understand, well, if my organs, every cell of your body stores information in some capacity or another. So if your organs are storing information and you can remove that information from your organs, what happens to the physical body? Again, it alters. Something changes. So we go through and, work on it from that aspect. And I think it's just interesting on it in a healing aspect. I always go back to what Jesus did and just wonder, he was just putting his hands on it and saying heal. He did a couple of things. There was, the first part was always clean out the negative. It's how we would look at it nowadays, but it was clearing out and moving demons.
Right.
And then he would talk to the person. He would tell the body part itself to heal. He would tell the person to heal. And then he would tell them to get up and do that thing that they thought they couldn't do. And in that moment, that's the moment that we're starting to create neuroplasticity. That's the moment you're creating those neural pathways is the second you get up and do something that you thought you couldn't do. So if it's open your eyes and see because you were blind and all of a sudden you open your eyes and you can really see, That's just interesting. The body literally is built to take suggestion. The body is literally built to hear and understand and alter the chemical relationship so that it can do what it's supposed to do.
Now
but
that
most
is
of us
interesting.
speak to it in negative aspects. Most of us say horrible things to ourselves, and we let other people say horrible things to us. And I really think that gets caught in our tissue. It gets caught in our cells, and that's where the system itself starts getting gunked up. When we clean that out, things start to alter and change.
Well, you do that with any living thing. And people who don't believe that, there's a very simple experiment you can do with two plants. And you've probably heard of this experiment, I'm sure, where you talk negatively to one plant and speak nicely to the other plant for a month or however long it is. And watch how the plant that you speak negatively to will absolutely die. And if it doesn't die, you'll see a significant difference in its growth to the one that you spoke positive to. You will see a significant difference in their quality, and one will flourish. The one that was spoken positively to will flourish, and the one that was spoken negatively to simply will not. And that has everything to do with the energy. So you can't tell me that there aren't things that we just don't know yet about that. There's just a lot more to be explored there, I think.
Oh, there's so many things. And there's actually an experiment that some guy had done with water.
I've heard of that one too. I couldn't remember what were the results of that one? I couldn't remember the results. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what he had done was he took water off of a pond, and it was all the same water, and he divided it up in all these different cups, and then he froze it. He labeled them. And he was just labeling them with words. So one would say hate, one would say love, one would say God, one would say Satan, one said death, one said, I love my life. So it was just all these different things. And then he froze it, and then he took scrapings, and he was looking at the crystallization. The word itself, spoken word, leaves a different crystallization inside the water when it's frozen. And so the idea is you're 60 to 70% water by nature, right? That the human body is that much water. That's what it takes to make us up. So if you have negative words spoken over you for a period of time, like over and over, or, you write negative words on your body, whatever the thing is, literally the water inside your body picks up that imprint. It leaves an imprint in every cell of your system. And then we wonder why, the organs failed, this happened, that happened, all these things start going wrong. And there's more to it than just this. Like, obviously, our food supply is tainted, and there's all kinds of other things going on, too. But if you can rectify that part in your cells, and I call it, God said it first, right? Speak words of life.
Yep.
Speak words of life over yourself. And so what I do with people, part of the treatment that I do is I take them all the way back to conception. When they're brand new, the energy is totally clear, and it's a brand new field. And as you're popping into creation, just through a visualization, we're speaking words of life over yourself instead of whatever you've ended up with over the last number of years that you've been alive. And we're just inputting new information into the system. And when you do that and lock it in there, the people who truly get it will walk away a totally different person.
And even the words that we speak to ourselves. And I think we're probably the worst. Women are probably we're like, men, and men, I don't know, men in the facey chat confirm or deny to me this fact. I could be way off base about this.
Most of my clients are men.
Really? So most of my
clients are men.
So it's that false bravado thing is real.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because they just won't talk about it. At least women give themselves the leeway to talk about it. Most men won't do that.
But I think we say the most negative things to ourselves. I know I definitely do. I try not to, but I definitely. Some days I just say like some really horrific things to myself, and like to the point where I'm like, "Wow, Mel, really?" Like, wow.
And think about it, right? I'll give you a little thing that you can play with in a second. I'll walk you through one of the things I do with folks so you can feel how this actually works in your system. But my words to myself for years were, I hate you. And I was literally inside myself, talking to myself and just going, I hate you. I hate you. I never even heard it for the longest time. And then I started recognizing it, and I was like, why on earth am I saying that to myself? And I could not figure it out, couldn't figure it out. At the point that it finally broke loose, I had been exercising, I was changing my body, the chemicals and hormones in my system were changing, I was starting to feel better, some of the situations with the illnesses were starting to go away. I was talking to God more, I was actually listening to music, which made me feel better. It was just a crazy bunch of stuff going on all at one time. And one day in the gym, I literally heard, and it sounded like it came from behind me, I literally heard, I love you. And I turned around and looked, and there was nobody standing there. And I was just like, whoa, did I just hear that? And then I heard it again. And I was like, wow. And it was literally the spirit coming to me saying, hey, I love you. And I could finally hear it because I was open enough to hear it. And that was a defining moment for me. That was a huge change that pretty much changed. And that's when I actually started getting into this line of work. I was like, if it's the negative words that are stuck inside of our head in relation to the chemicals that are stuck inside of our bodies, there has to be a faster, easier way to change all of this stuff.
It's true.
Because sitting there,
and I think that once you, unfortunately, I think that there's a bunch of marketing new age people out there that have made it out to be like it's this woo-woo kind of thing, when it really isn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When it comes down to it, it's science. And then when you think about the fact that I feel like, anyway, me being an academic and all, when I feel like when I find out, because very, very, very smart. But I feel like if you know it's science, then it's just a lot easier to apply because it's science. I don't know.
You know, it is sometimes. It depends on the person. And I work with people all over the world. I have clients in countries sometimes I've never even heard of. I have to go look them up to figure out where they're at in the world. And it's interesting with people. They'll sit there and listen to you, and they'll understand what you're talking about. And then they'll text you back later or call me back or email me or whatever and say, I can't do this. It's against my religion. I'm just like, wow.
Well, see, that's the problem right there.
Wow.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's against their religion. And they haven't examined whether or not it's against the word of God, and they haven't examined whether or not it's scientific. Because if somebody said it was against my religion, I would go to that pastor or whoever and show them the science behind it.
I have tried that before. You won't believe the lengths I've gone to. I stood in front of a pastor in California when we lived there. And I was actually showing him the science about food, because he'd get up and pray over like they all do, get up and pray over the congregation and heal this and heal that. And God would move, and then nobody would get healed. And I was like, what on earth is that about? And literally one day God was like, you're still eating the poison. Like, we can heal it if you want to heal it, but you're still eating the poison. You're going to get it again.
Yep.
And so people would get healed, and then they would get sick again. It would revert back, and it's always like, oh, man. And it was like, if you're going to continue to eat the poison, you're going to continue to have this issue. And I played with some of this stuff enough, and I say played with it because to me it's just like, this is the craziest game in the world. I will talk to my food. I'll tell it. I'll ask it, are you going to help me or are you going to hurt me? Because sometimes you can't tell what's GMO and what's not, or what has been sprayed with glyphosate or what isn't, right? So that whole thing. And if it's poisonous and it's going to affect your physical body, you're going to have an issue. The physical body is going to have an issue. So I started talking to my food, and what I noticed is you can actually feel it. The energy of the food itself changes, and the nature of the body is to run from poison. It's to run from danger.
True.
And you can actually feel the difference. So I kept training my body to feel that on a deeper level. And I found it interesting. This pastor, I was trying to talk to him about this whole thing, and he just wouldn't even, he looked at me, what he actually told me was, I can't get on your platform with you.
But if you understand, if you understand the basics of biology, the most basic biology, in my mind, this would make sense on the most basic biological level. Plants, humans. When we first got here, that's what we ate. Like, to me, like that would make a lot of sense. It's like even with and the fact that there's still a lot that we don't, it's like, but like I said, I think part of the problem is we have a lot of false witnesses out here who have taken these things and, for lack of a better expression, bastardized these things and turned them into something like the burning of sage. You know, I read an article somebody posted it on Facebook, and it was a scientific article about the chemical aspects of burning sage and what it does, how it explained the biology of what burning sage does.
It actually pulls negative ions out of the air. It'll
like
actually
your
purify the air.
Thank you. Just like the air purifier you bought for $300. Same principle. Like literally the same principle. And so you have these new age people that say a prayer and burn sage and, you know, dance around your house. And so now you have pastors that are like, and listen, not for nothing, pastors are trying to protect their flock from spiritual, from demons. So, you know, I can't blame them. You know what I mean? You're trying to protect your flock and you know, the devil is crafty. So I don't altogether blame them for being overprotective, but if you read the science, again, if you read the science of it, it makes perfect sense, since sage is a natural. There was no ionizer
back in the day
in the garden.
No, there wasn't.
Like there wasn't.
And it's like every herb. It's like every herb on the planet has some kind of physiological part of helping your body heal or something. It'll do something in your system. Most of them are antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. They kill everything. Oregano is amazing, but we don't need enough oregano for it to do its job.
Right. And so you know, it's the typical thing that the enemy does. It just goes around causing confusion.
Right.
You know,
let me walk you through a little protocol I do with people so you can feel some of what I do in action. So when I'm working with somebody that has confusion, right, you have some kind of distension in the system where maybe you know you want this, and we're back to the subconscious conscious idea. So consciously you've been thinking, I want this, I want to feel this, I want to have this, I want to be this, whatever the thing is. I want a
successful business. I want my business to be successful. I want to have the discipline to make my business successful. How would I do that?
Let's go the business route then. So think about your business, and I want everybody to kind of play with this for a second. I'm going to walk you through a process that I believe an angel showed me. So I was sitting in mine, I kept asking God, show me something easier, make this easier. Like some of the protocols we do are just absolutely ridiculous. So I kept asking for easier. I wanted to know what Jesus did.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm just serious. I'm like, come on now, this is ridiculous that we have to tap on everything and go through all this muscle testing and all these crazy things we do. And so what showed up was this angel and gave me this thing and literally just kind of set it in my heart. And I was like, oh, and instantly I understood the way your system can work and how it can function together in correlation with the throne. And for people who are Christian or not Christian, I got shown two different ways, and I was like, oh, this is nuts. And people who don't believe all of a sudden start wondering, okay, what is out there? What else is there that I'm missing? Because there's a spiritual aspect to this. And so that's where to me, it got just really super interesting. So you're going to think about the thing that you're working on. So if it's your business, go through and just pull up all the thoughts you have. If you want to get super specific and there's one certain issue, just think about that one issue, that, you know, specific thing. If it's just kind of in general, you can run it through in general, and then you might want to hone it down and get more specific once you get more information. So you're just going to think about it first. All the information is stored in your brain because that's what your brain does. So think about it. Normally I give people about 30 seconds. You're going to sit there and just think every thought you can think about whatever the thing is. And then with your awareness, what I want you to do is I want you to move that idea, the thought, all the stuff you've got going on in your brain, pretend like you've got a funnel in the top of your heart and just move all that information from your brain right down into your heart. Once you're in your heart, it can feel weird for a second if you're not used to doing something like this. So you'll feel something, but what you're looking for is the feeling. Let it sit there for a second and see if you can rectify it in your system. All your heart can do is produce oxytocin or serotonin. So it's either going to turn into love or compassion. So you'll notice the feeling. If it's confusion, it's going to change. Your heart's a transducer. It transduces information. And then I'll let people sit there in their heart for about 30 seconds. And then from there, you're going to take that information, and now we're just working with the feeling. And I always tell people, if you're still thinking, you're still in your brain. Bring it back from your brain, back down into your heart, just feel it. And then from your heart, you're going to take it and use your awareness again and just move it down towards your gut. Your gut produces more neurochemicals than your brain does. It will feel totally different than your heart, but again, you're just feeling. Your heart or your gut has a sense of knowing. It's that the gut feeling that people talk about. And you have this feeling that somebody's going to sneak up behind you in the dark alley kind of thing. Your gut can reach out and sense things in the environment around you. So it's just kind of this little knowing, the gut feeling, and you're just noticing that feeling. And then I tell people, when you're ready, take it from your gut, and you're going to move it all the way up into the universe. And I just want you to set it at the feet of God. Set it at the throne. And then just notice. You might get a word, you might get a picture, you might get a vision, you might get a different feeling. And then from there, you're going to take it, and I'll let people sit there usually as long as they want to, but I don't know how much time we have left here. Okay. I want you to take that information, however it showed up to you, and bring it back into your brain so you can store it. So whatever you just now got, bring it back down into your brain and just notice. And then take a deep breath. And what did you notice? So then I'll have people go through and just describe what they felt, what they saw. So from your brain, what were you thinking about?
From my brain, I just had dead air on.
Yes.
Cannot have dead air on the radio. I apologize. I apologize. I really was just focusing on being more positive and excited, which I already was, but so I'm starting another. You still here? Can you hear me? Because I'm starting another new business venture this summer that I'm really excited about. So that's really my focus.
Nice.
But
and then when you brought it to your heart, what did it feel like?
Oh, that felt fantastic, to be honest.
Nice.
Like it felt,
and so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that bump in chemicals.
It felt
even
better, because usually what happens, I was starting to get afraid, because usually what happens when I start a new business venture is that I'm excited at first, and then as I get closer to starting it, I'm like not as excited, and then I don't I don't think I want to do it. But I don't feel that way about this. And as I was thinking about it, I feel less and less like that. I feel very positive about this.
Nice. And so from your heart to your gut, what did it feel like after that? So again, just the feeling. What did the feeling come up as?
It still feels good.
Yeah, and it should. It should alter in feeling. Sometimes people actually get more information from their gut.
Yeah.
Like you'll literally go, oh, I just had an awareness. I just had a new idea. I just added something else to it. Like you'll get something else to add to it.
Oh, there's gonna be plenty. I'm staying in to work on it tonight, even though I don't start for another month.
Nice. There you go. And then from your gut to the foot of God, what did you get?
I actually got his blessing. is what I felt as soon as you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And only because I think one of the reasons it kind of connected was because it was something that I had been praying about, and I don't typically pray about my business. But I had started to pray about that, and I don't know why I don't typically pray about my business. It's always about like my friends' health and my family's health and you know, people staying safe and stuff like that. But here lately, I just kind of tagged that on the end. And by the way, if you could help me out with that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, so now when you bring that back down into your brain and you log the information that God blessed your business, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to start acting in ways that blessing is actually going to come to life.
And that's what
the brain does. It gives you more information. You're going to go looking for information on blessing. And you're going to start acting out in ways that you're going to actually bless your business. God gave you the information that was blessed, and you're going to be able to run with it in a different direction than you probably ever even imagined.
Indeed. And I think that, again, like is another thing that people miss with this whole conversation is that I think what they think it means is that you're treating God as some kind of genie that's gonna rain. No. Absolutely not.
No.
And that's absolutely not what it is. And I understand that, but I think sometimes people are Christians, especially, are not willing to have these kind of discussions, and so you never get to the point where you have this discussion and you realize that no, that's like the opposite.
What I've noticed, Melanie, with most Christians is what this does for them is make them aware that they can actually hear God's voice. Where they couldn't before, they'll start getting visions, they'll start hearing, they'll start getting new information that clearly they weren't getting before. And what it does is it alters their system chemically, which alters the way they produce and do things inside their life, including illness. The higher level chemicals heal. The other ones, the ones that make you feel bad, actually destroy.
Absolutely.
Right? They cause
They're the ones that make you sick.
Yep. Right? So when you get those higher level chemicals, what this does for a person, and I've noticed this with quite a few people, is usually they just sit there and they're like, wow, because they haven't heard God's voice before. And all of a sudden they got a very direct word, you're blessed. This is blessed.
But
this is what it's going to look like.
Even doctors tell you to stay positive. Why do they tell you that? But they never get into why they tell you that. Like if you get a bad diagnosis or something like that, one of the things that doctors tell you, it's really important to stay positive. But they never get into why they tell you that.
Laughter is the best medicine, sure.
Right. Well,
that's
it's really
why
important to stay optimistic. Well, why is it important to stay optimistic there, Doc? Where is that on the prescription pad? No, seriously. I'm serious.
Well, I'm dead serious. This is why I teach this stuff, because if you don't, you will end up in illness, which is where I was, which is how I learned it, right? Well, I had to go through the cycle to figure it out.
Well, because it's not medical, so the doctor can't say. But I think a doctor would be on solid ground saying that because it is. Scientifically, he can say there's scientific evidence that people, that's probably how he has to frame it. There's scientific evidence that people are much more successful in overcoming this illness if they stay positive.
Well, now remember where this conversation started, though. We were talking about the subconscious mind. You can stay positive. That's a conscious effort.
True.
If your subconscious mind has other information, it's going to get knocked out all day long, which is back to where, like, let's clean out the subconscious storage locker and that idea that it stores that information. So we're literally taking apart that neural pathway to give you new information.
True.
Because if that's locked in there, those positive affirmations and that positivity all day long are going to be a struggle. And that's where most people come to me going, okay, I'm struggling.
Right.
Why doesn't this work? I'm doing the affirmations. I'm eating the right food. I'm taking care of myself the way I'm supposed to. And I still can't get beyond this barrier.
Because you're BSing.
And that's just the way it shows up.
You're BSing the affirmations. You're covering it up. It's like it's like you're trying to cover poo-poo with frosting. It doesn't work. You got to get rid of the poo-poo.
You do. And that's the subconscious stuff that most people don't recognize it's even there.
Right. It's true.
And that's where, they know there's a problem. They know there's a barrier. They know there's a glass ceiling. They know there's a block. They know they're struggling, but they can't quite pinpoint why. And then when you start digging through their past and you start, that's where I'm back to, I can draw those lines and parallels through stuff pretty easily and see what happened and why it turned out the way it did. And most people are just like, oh, wow, let's get rid of that. Get rid of it. And they're like, huh.
I have another story about this. I used to have very bad anxiety around balloons. I had no idea why. Okay? Very bad. I didn't like to blow them up. I still don't really care for them. I gotta be honest. but I'm much better than I used to be. But I really, really disliked balloons. Found out there's pictures of me as a baby, like a 2-month-old. I always thought this picture is a kind of well-known picture in my family. This baby picture of me. I'm a first grandchild. Of me with this, what I thought was a ball. It's not a ball. It's a balloon.
It's a balloon.
Yeah, it's a balloon. So so of course, now that there's Facebook and everybody and their grandmother has it, somebody thought it'd be awesome to share that picture. And my mom, I'm almost 50, by the way. This was like 5 years ago. This was like 5 years ago. So my mom says, yeah, that balloon popped and you really freaked out. You were only like 2 months old. And I was like, what? I said, do you know that I thought I was just a freak because I don't like balloons? And all this time.
This is exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly how it happened. That's exactly. So here's what you do. Like, literally think about it. Think about the picture, the information that you do have, even the feeling.
Right.
The feeling that it gives you, and then take that information and drop it into your heart and let it transform.
Yeah.
Your heart is a transducer. It can only do two things. It can give you the chemicals of love, or it can give you the chemicals of compassion. So you can amplify something good, or you can remove something bad. So pull that information about the balloon down into your heart and just feel it for a second. And then with your awareness, move it straight into your stomach and feel that there for a second. And then move that straight up into the universe and just leave it sitting there for a second.
Yeah, that needs to be left with him.
No. And then you bring it. That's why he gave you a brain. Now you bring it back down into your brain and notice how it feels different.
That's true. I need to pull that situation together. But I thought it was really funny. I was like, that would have been some good intel to have, say, 30 years ago.
But even now, though, you can transform it. That's the whole point of this conversation.
Right, exactly.
Even now, once and you don't even have to know. People will come to me and say, I just have this feeling. And I can't get rid of this feeling. And doing what we just now did, we can actually start to remove that feeling. And there's some other things we can add to it, too, to get deeper into the subconscious. But quickly, I'm talking a matter of minutes, all of a sudden that will resolve and you'll feel totally different.
I'm good. Well, election season is coming soon, so I'm going to be around a lot of balloons because I'm involved in politics. So we'll see how it goes. I always end up getting the balloons for events. I'm like, how do I always end up the balloon girl? You guys know I don't like balloons. Why do you guys always make me get the balloons? It's not right. Maybe God's just trying to help me get through this.
Well, and I can actually explain that to you on an energy level, too. There's a reason why that shows up all the time. That's part of the cycle and the pattern, right? Because that's what's stuck in your mind. Stuck in your brain. Your brain goes looking for it.
I'm like, please don't give me, I want to do anything but balloons. Great, get the balloons.
I would just say let's transform it so that doesn't have to be that way anymore. That's what I would say. So you could go do something else instead of being stuck with balloons.
Exactly. I definitely have to do that.
Yeah.
Listen, where can we get your book and what's the name of it? Tell us all that good stuff before we have to close the show.
Yeah. My books are both on Amazon. I have one about autoimmune health. And it's literally the path I took trying to heal my autoimmune diseases and how I use these processes to help myself heal. The other one's called Change, Rewire Your Mind, and it's more about the process and the reason why I got to the point that I did, and then how to use it to actually aid yourself in changing and moving forward in your life. Right now, what I'm doing, you can find me at mindrewire.com is my web address, and I do sessions. I do private sessions with people But one of the things I'm transitioning to is group work. And so I'm actually starting on May 19th, so the week after Mother's Day. We're starting a new group session, and what we do is every Sunday afternoon, actually, we go in and do group work, releasing subconscious issues, working to change the way we feel so we can feel that different feeling inside our body and lift up the levels of oxytocin and serotonin, the good neurotransmitters, so you feel different. I'm always talking to people about looking for the things that are holy, that are lovely, that are beautiful, that are righteous, because when you're looking at those things, that lifts your level of chemicals up. It actually makes you feel better. There's a reason why God said to look at that stuff.
Right.
Inside your system, when we can keep our eyes focused at that level, the other stuff starts to change. We can make it happen faster when you can get into the subconscious arena, when you can start playing around in what we call the subconscious mind. And there's little tricks, physiology-wise, putting your body into different postures and positions that allow it to happen in minutes. Happens way faster when you use something like a whole brain state, or you use that cycle that I just now took you through.
Could you imagine how big the Bible would be if Jesus put all the details in there when he told us to do it? when the Bible writers were writing?
There is a train of thought that they didn't put all the information in the Bible.
Well, of course, that's what I'm saying.
There is a train of thought that there was more information written down that didn't get stuck in there at the time of Constantine and King James, right? So
could you imagine?
It's interesting that. No, well, yeah, I can actually. That's
right.
That said, here, do this.
Right, and here's the details behind why, just that one scripture that you just pointed out. Here's all things that are chased, all these positive things are in front of you, and now here's a whole chapter on the scientific reason why I'm saying that.
Here's how it works inside your body.
The Bible would be it would be bigger than War and Peace. If for every scripture, there was a full-fledged explanation for why, a scientific explanation for why he was saying that. When you think
it's just so interesting to me that there really is one.
Right,
I would tell
I've heard that too.
Interested, if you're interested in doing this group work, what happens inside of a group is the connection actually makes the work faster and it makes it bigger and better.
Interesting.
It's interesting, the connection part of us, which, and again, God created the system a reason for a certain way. That's why isolating yourself is so bad. That's why keeping yourself set apart from people is such a horrible thing to do and will cause depression and anxiety and all of these issues. We were meant to be connected, and to disconnect causes a problem. So inside this group, we create that connection, and the healing happens faster. Everything happens faster when you're connected. And that's just interesting. And the only way you can find that program is to go to my Instagram page. On my bio, there's a link. Click that link and you'll get more information there. And until Mother's Day, it's actually $500 off. So if it's something you're interested in, go take a look while it's on sale.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it. Give a shout out to Josh for hooking us up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josh. Yeah, and it was great to meet you today.
It was nice to meet you. Thank you very much. You have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie to SHR Media. I'm so sorry that I went a little bit over time, but we had such a great conversation. I don't think I'm running into anybody else's show, so I think I'm okay. But anyhow, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank my sponsors, John Campbell at Biz Social Personal Touch, Robert Houston at MrCreditRepair.biz, and of course the one and only Eva Rosenberg at TaxMama.com. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you're listening via SHR Media, or if you are listening via iTunes or any of the other downloadable applications, I appreciate you so very much. And remember, all of this is very important because after all, it's your money. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.